Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, StayNTouch Cloud PMS Configuration and User Training Series, General Settings, presented by StayNTouch Implementation Consultant, James Lee. I'm your host, Erin Fisher, the content writer here at StayNTouch. Today's presentation will cover general settings in StayNTouch Cloud PMS. In this webinar, we will cover the following topics: file attachment, auto deposit collection, auto no-show billing, credit card authorization rules, and stationery. We'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we will answer them in the order they are received at the end. And that's all I have right now. James, I'm going to hand the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Erin. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, can you confirm you can see my screen?
No, not yet. Now I can.
Okay, perfect. All right, everyone. Well, hello and welcome. Today we are going to be just talking about some general settings in your configuration. A lot of these things are going to be processes that can be ran automatically. That's going to make your lives a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and log in here to my training hotel, which is the Hotel James, New York City. The first thing we're going to cover is file attachments. Recently, we did roll out the ability to attach a file to a reservation. In addition to reservations, they can be attached to guest cards, stay cards, company cards, travel agency cards, as well as groups. In order to enable file attachments, you do need to set up a Google Drive or a Dropbox account for your property. I usually recommend creating just some kind of generic drive set up that way you're not using your own personal Gmail account or Dropbox. Those can be set up under your hotel staff area under settings and configuration, and you have a Google Drive and Dropbox. Now, I find Google Drive to be the easiest because as long as you have your login set up on Chrome here, I can just hit add new. When I hit add new, it's going to bring up my Google account, and I could select that, and it will automatically create an access token for me, which will populate in your Google Drive area, and that's where these attachments will be stored. We do have the option to also do Dropbox. Dropbox are a little bit more involved because you do have to go into Dropbox itself and generate the access token. If you just do a Google search on how to generate an access token in Dropbox, you'll find step-by-step instructions online. But once you have that access token, you just copy it and simply paste it here and give that a description here for Dropbox. Now, once you have your Google Drive or Dropbox configured and ready to go, you can go ahead and turn on the file attachment functionality. And that's actually going to be located here under Cards. Under Cards, we have File Attachments. This is where I can activate it. Once I activate it, I have to select either a Google Cloud Drive or a Dropbox of when I'm setting these up here. And then I could select the areas that I want to be able to attach documents to. And basic rule of thumb, anything you can attach to an email, you can attach to a reservation or profile. And to kind of show you what that looks like, if I go into my dashboard here, and I'm just going to bring up a reservation in the future here. I'll pick one here. And if I wanted to attach something to the reservation, I could do so here under Notes, and I have a File tab here, and this is where I could attach any document or a PDF or whatever I need to here. Great place to attach your credit card authorization forms. If you use those, you can attach those here as well. On guest cards, if I go into her guest card here under Notes and Files, this is where I can attach files for this particular profile. Company cards, travel agency cards is going to exist in the same area, as well as groups. So if I go into groups, this is a great place to include like maybe a group resume or contract under Notes and Files here. And this is where I can attach that information. Okay, the next thing I want to review is the auto deposit collection. This is another feature that we've rolled out probably about a year and a half ago, I guess. But under your settings here, under hotel and staff, and under settings and parameters, we do have this auto charge deposit option here. With this enabled, what happens is during the night audit process, the system will go over and look at any outstanding deposits that are due for that day. It will then process the payments automatically to the credit card that is on file. In the morning, it would be a good idea for somebody to come in and take a look at those deposits to make sure everything processed correctly. We actually keep a track of those charges under your financials menu here. And if you go into auto charge, this is going to show all the deposits that were collected in the night audit the previous evening. A second just to pull up here. So I can see all the credit cards that were charged here, and you can see the color coded here that the red ones are going to be declined, green ones went through. But I also have a status field up here where I can filter and say I just want to look at my declined transactions. I can look at my declined transactions, and I can even process these again. So if I need to, I can go ahead and select the box, process selected to see if it will go through the charge. Now I know this training MasterCard is going to decline, so it's not going to go through, but I could do the attempt again. Now, the one thing to note about auto collection, if this is enabled, the system will try again, and it will keep trying to collect this deposit until that deposit is fulfilled. So just keep note that if the credit card was declined, the system will try to go out and collect deposit again on that. The next thing I would like to show you is our auto no-show billing. Under settings here, if I go back into hotel and staff and settings and parameters, we do have an auto no-show charge code option here. If I turn this filter on, this will post no-show revenue. It's going to be the first night's room and tax automatically to all reservations who no-showed that evening. And the one important thing to note is that it does not process payments. It's just going to post the revenue. So it's still very important that if you do use this function, that somebody is paying attention to the no-show cancellation report and they're going through and processing those payments. It's a good thing for it'd be a good thing for your night auditors to do. So after they do their end of day, they can just run that report and look at any no-show reservations and make sure they go in and collect payment on those. Credit card authorization rules. A lot of times these settings are just kind of put in place at the beginning when you guys go live with our system and people kind of forget about it and they're not quite sure where to make those adjustments. So we just kind of wanted to spend some time to go over credit card authorization rules and what they do and where those are set up. But under reservations here, we have reservation settings. And here's where we have our credit card authorization rules. Now they have 4 different options here. The one right here is credit card authorization at check-in. This is where you're saying how much are we going to authorize for the guest at check-in. Normally you would say entire stay, and then we want to put on here how much more we want to authorize for incidentals. For my property, I have it set up at $50 per night, but you could also do a percentage of the rate, and you can also do a flat amount for the entire stay. So I could say $150 regardless of how many nights. I can also put a cap on how many nights I authorize the credit card. If I want to put 7 here, and that will allow me to put a max on 7 nights here for that be able to authorize. Credit card authorizations for stay extensions. If a person comes down to the front desk and extends their reservation, definitely want to make sure you have it set to entire stay. That way it immediately authorizes the credit card to cover the remaining balance. It's up to you if you want to go ahead and include incidentals on there as well, but you can include that information there too. Top up authorization rule. So this basically it's a very interesting rule. What this does is it actually chases that incidental hold that you have on there. So for example, I have $50 per night. Let's say a guest is checking in for 1 night. We authorize an extra $50. If he goes to the restaurant and spends $30, you can configure the system to say, I always want to keep that $50. So in that instance, if I have $50 set up here, when I use that $30 at the bar, during the night audit, the system will go out and collect another $20 because it's always making sure that it has this $50 buffer zone. Now, it doesn't have to equal what you have up here as your incidental rule here. You could say, I just want to set this up at $20. In that instance, it would just make sure that it has a $20 buffer. It's always going to chase that $20 buffer. To the right of here, we have our credit card authorization rule for incidentals only. This comes into play for third-party billing. So if you have a third-party billing situation in place where room and tax is routed to a separate entity, this is the amount that we would authorize for that guest credit card for incidentals. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is our stationery. So under hotel and staff, we have stationery here. And this essentially is where all the communication happens with your guests, be it confirmation letters, invoices that are sent out, statements. We also have some information for registration card, but all of that stuff is going to be listed here. Under general settings, we have your salutation on how you want to greet the guest and if you want to include their title. If you want to include a photo of the hotel, you could do so here and attach it, and that will actually show up on your confirmation letters. Terms and conditions. So we have different areas of terms and conditions that can be displayed. We have Rover check-in, which is using StayNTouch to check in a guest via iPad or tablet. We have registration card print, where you print out a reg card and you have terms and conditions that display there. Station, this is for our kiosk solution. So if you're checking in via kiosk, the terms and conditions selected here will display. Zest Web is for our guest mobility. If a guest is checking in online via their smart devices or their home computer, these are the terms and conditions that display there. And then we even have terms and conditions that can be added to confirmation letters. You can see I only have one set of terms and conditions here, but I can add multiple ones here. If I wanted to, I could say, you know what, this is going to be for my Zest Station or kiosk solution, or terms and conditions. And then I would go ahead and type my terms and conditions here. Now this area does support HTML formatting, so you can make this look really nice. There is a great website called wordhtml.com. And with that, you're able to copy a Word document, paste it there, and it actually spits out the HTML code for you. You can then copy that and paste it here under your terms and conditions. And if you're fairly savvy with HTML, you can make this look really, really nice. Hotel information. We actually added this recently and kind of in the age of COVID and everything going on this past year. We actually added this as a banner that shows up in the guest mobile or guest kiosk check-in to include information about hotel policies and what you're doing for COVID as precautions and that kind of stuff. But you could actually technically use this for anything if you wanted to, just a personal, add a banner on the kiosk solution or the mobile selection here. And it's the same concept as terms and conditions. You would add a new one here. Again, supports HTML formatting, and then add that message either at kiosk or mobile check-in. Below here, we have our confirmations and cancellations. We have our guest confirmation and our confirmation email. This is the subject line of the email. And here are your options of what you can include on that confirmation letter here. And then you can even choose to copy the hotel on confirmations that are sent out. You can put the email address here and that information will be sent there. If you did attach the photo of the hotel, you can go ahead and choose to include the photo here. Your logo is listed here as well. You can give your logo a background, and then you have your options here to send the confirmation letter. Now, if you're using a third-party CRM tool and you don't really need our system to send out confirmations, you could disable that right here, and then confirmations won't be sent out. Custom text per reservation. This allows you to add a personal note on confirmation letters. So you can say something like, it was great talking to you today. We took care of your dinner reservations. You should be all set. You can add that as a personal note on the confirmation letters. We even have the ability to include social network links. So here, if I have this turned on, I can go into my social networks section here, and I could add new. And these are all the different types of social network links that you could add to your confirmation letters. The way it displays on the confirmation letter is it just the icon of that social network. So you would see, the blue F for Facebook, the little bird symbol for Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. You just see those logos on the confirmation letter, and you can click from there. This is the body of the confirmation letter. This is where you're going to say, thank you for choosing the Hotel James New York City. We're looking forward to welcome you, all that stuff in here. And again, this all supports HTML formatting, so you can make this look really nice with pictures and links and all kinds of stuff. Hotel, this is just a place where you can put instructions on how to get to the hotel, or maybe if your hotel offers transportation to the hotel from the airport, you can put instructions on what they need to do to get in contact to be picked up. Location will allow you to load an image of a map where your hotel is located. You could even grab a URL from Google Maps and paste that here and just give that a label where they can actually click on that, and it will take them into Google Maps and show them where your hotel is. Guest cancellations. This is the email of the cancellation here, and this is the body of the cancellation letter. The letter is actually as an attachment. So this is what the email would say, and the PDF is going to be attachment, and this is the message that will display there. Group confirmation. For those who are familiar with how our groups work, we do have the ability to send a group summary to your group contacts. This is where you can put the subject line and the header text and footer, as well as another box here for instructions on how to get to the hotel. You can create different ones for different statuses. Now, my property, I only have definite and canceled, but if you have definite and tentative and prospect and all those different statuses, you can create a separate email for each status. Registration card print, not a lot of things to go over here, just a couple options that you can do with reg cards. Obviously, if you don't want to use reg cards, you can disable it here and the reg card button will disappear from the check-in screen. If you want to include information here for vehicle information, where you can include your car, your license plate, that kind of information, you have the ability to do that here. Show contact information will actually include spaces for guests to fill out their address, their phone number, their email address, and what have you. Just keep in mind, if you do use this option right here, it does take up a lot of space on your reg cards. So you will more than likely be printing out reg cards on at least 2 pages with that turned on. Invoices, we have our general invoice settings here. This is mostly for certain countries in Europe that have really strict tax laws. They have to have labeled a certain way. So we created this. In the States, it's not usually commonly done, but there are some countries out there that require certain labels on invoices. So that's why we have this here. Guest invoice, this is the email that goes out to your guest. So your guest folio is attached. Thank you for staying at the Hotel James, New York City. And then you also have the option to add a header and footer to your guest folio. So this will be right above all the charges listed on the bill, and this will be right below, so you can include that information there. Over here on the right, you do have some options. We can include the address of the hotel on the folio. Email bill on checkout, we usually recommend keeping this on. This means by default, the system will email the guest a folio. Show works at field allows you to type in the name of the company where the guest works. Not so much a company address, but being able to just type it in, and that will actually show on the folio. And then here's where you can choose which bill by default you want to be emailed. Company travel agency invoices, when folios are emailed for a company or TA bill, this is a subject line. And again, you have the ability to add some messages here. We have our AR invoice billing text, custom header, and your custom footer as well. Performa invoice, if you are using Performa invoices where you can email a guest a bill of their anticipated charges before they even stay at your hotel, those are the options here. And again, this is the body and the header and footer of the invoice. Group account invoices, again, this is kind of regarding countries in Europe that require certain labels and that kind of stuff on there. And then the last thing we have is our accounts receivables, an AR statement. This is the subject line and the body. And again, you have a header and footer that you can add directly on the statement. All right. So that's going to wrap things up for general settings. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Erin.
Thanks so much,
Stop
James.
sharing my...
I'll keep it on there. We have a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'd
Great.
now like to turn over the floor for questions. Remember, you can submit questions through the question box in the middle of the control panel. So the first question is from Scott. For file storage, is a OneDrive integration on the development roadmap?
I believe it is. I don't have a lot of information on that, but I've heard a lot of clients want OneDrive on there. So I've heard that we are working on it, but I don't really have a lot of info on that.
Okay. All right. And I don't see any more questions. I'll give everyone a few more seconds to enter those. All right. Since there are no more questions, I'd like to take to the floor to offer some final thoughts. Let me switch to my screen. So in this webinar, we covered the following topics: file attachment, auto deposit collection, auto no-show billing, credit card authorization rules, and stationery. With that, I'd like to conclude our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me at erin.fisher@StayNTouch.com. Thanks again.